In the depths of winter, a team of researchers detonates explosives in a frozen wasteland, uncovering a girl encased in ice. To their astonishment, the girl awakens and begins to speak. She claims to be a goddess, leaving everyone stunned. News of the discovery spreads quickly, and stories of divine duels captivate the public. Broadcast through live streams for all to see, people are fascinated by the thrilling battles and unfolding drama. Meanwhile, a young man named Faye Phyllis watches one of these streams. On screen, a team of players falls into a trap and is defeated by a fiery salamander. Other contenders also fail, highlighting the extreme difficulty of the game. Faye declares it's his time to act and sets out to join the competition. On his way, he's recognized by passers-by, a testament to his reputation. When Faye arrives at his destination, he is greeted by his manager. She tells him he has been searching for the wrong girl all along. She then explains that a goddess named Leolicia was discovered a year ago, trapped in a crystal. Leolicia had once played games with humans, but fell into a deep slumber at the bottom of the ocean for thousands of years. The manager warns Faye not to anger the goddess and to fulfill his role of watching over her. She also reminds him that his acting skills might be crucial for what lies ahead. Faye demonstrates his precision by throwing dice and accurately predicting the outcome, a 4 and a 6. His manager is impressed, but Faye casually explains that it's not luck but technique. Shortly after, Faye meets Leolicia and freezes momentarily, recalling memories from his childhood. He brushes it off as a coincidence. The manager leaves them alone, and Leolicia immediately proposes they start a game. She pulls out a deck of cards and explains the rules. They need to find matching cards with related themes. Faye, confident in his memory, asks her to reshuffle the deck since he already memorized the card placements. Amused, Leolicia makes the cards levitate and fly in random patterns, complicating the task. Faye realizes this won't be as easy as he thought. Faye takes the first turn and flips over cards with themes like birthplace and blood type. Leolicia follows, flipping over birthplace and name. During the game, she strikes an alluring pose, flustering Faye. Eventually, Faye finds a matching pair for birthplace, prompting Leolicia to reveal that she comes from a place called Elementis, accessible only through special gates. Faye mentions he once visited Elementis to gain power and become an apostle. He explains that apostles require this strength to navigate the world and compete in games. Losing 3 times means losing their powers, but winning 10 times earns the title of champion. Faye's manager expresses her hope that he will achieve this goal. Leolicia then flips over a blank card, allowing her to ask any question. She inquires why Faye wants to get closer to her. Surrounded by flames to emphasize the importance of her question, she waits for his response. Faye, feeling cornered, admits that his goal is to watch over her at the request of his manager. Leolicia smiles, delighted by his honesty, and confesses that she liked him from the very beginning. As the game progresses, Leolicia notices that Faye deliberately avoids making bold moves, choosing instead to play conservatively. She asks what questions he truly wanted to ask her. She then reveals that she chose him as her partner because of his 3 consecutive victories in past games. She also shares her ultimate goal, to regain her divine status by winning 10 matches in a row. After achieving this, she could reclaim her place as a goddess. Leolicia takes Faye by the hand and leads him to the sacred gates, which open the path to the center of immersion. Together, they step into the realm of the divine game. As they enter, Faye feels the intense atmosphere shift, signaling the immediate start of their new challenge. Other teams were effortlessly breaking apart stones to clear their path. Suddenly, a massive boulder fell toward Leolicia, but she shattered it with ease, leaving everyone stunned. Faye noticed her action and felt a wave of relief, realizing how much he had been worrying about her safety. Leolicia in turn acknowledged his concern with a small smile. 10 minutes earlier, as they entered the game zone, Faye and Leolicia observed other teams assembling. The air was tense, but a hush fell over the crowd when Leolicia appeared. Her reputation preceded her. Then, Mipu, the game's enigmatic overseer, materialized to announce the start of the challenge. Faye's manager turned to him and said she had high expectations, making it clear how much responsibility rested on his shoulders. Other teams discussed their strategies for victory, but Mipu quickly interrupted with an unexpected twist. The rules had changed. The goal was no longer about breaking stones. Instead, they had to outrun an enormous titan that was about to be unleashed. Faye immediately realized how difficult this game would be. As the challenge began, a colossal titan emerged, towering over the players. Panic spread as the teams sprinted away together, but it soon became evident that outrunning the titan as a group was impossible. Faye and his companions decided to scatter in different directions to confuse the titan. One of the girls in the group attempted to hide inside a building, but Faye stopped her just in time, warning that the titan could easily demolish structures. His prediction proved correct. The titan noticed her, smashed through the building, and crushed her. Moments later, the girl stood up, seemingly unharmed, but her behavior was strange. She began attacking her own teammates. Faye quickly realized she had been corrupted and was now fighting on the titan's side. The situation worsened as the Titan managed to touch and convert 3 more players, leaving 4 corrupted individuals on the opposing side. Faye and the remaining uncorrupted players continued running, but they noticed that the Titan had stopped chasing them. It became clear that the players who had been corrupted were only partially converted, meaning there was still hope to save them. In a moment of ingenuity, Faye decided to put a trash can over the corrupted girl's head to subdue her. Meanwhile, Leola Shia reached out and touched the girl, using her unique power to restore her to the team. This enraged the Titan, who turned its full attention toward Leola Shia and Faye. As they ran, Leola Shia remarked on how well their team was working together. She expressed gratitude, saying she was happy that Faye understood her so well. Faye, in turn, was briefly lost in thought, recalling fragments of his past. The group soon realized that most of the other players had been defeated, leaving the Titan to focus entirely on them. They took refuge in a partially destroyed building, trying to strategize their next move. Faye suspected there was another layer to this game beyond just running from the Titan. He proposed splitting into smaller groups to improve their chances of survival. While exploring, Faye ended up on the roof of a building, only to realize that a golem, a secondary threat in the game, had been luring him there intentionally. At the same time, Leola Shia was running through the streets, trying to draw the Titan's attention away from her teammates. Faye's regenerative ability saved him from a dangerous attack, reinforcing his confidence that they could win. Faye declared that the true nature of the game was reverse, a strategy-based game where the goal was to outmaneuver the Titan. Leola Shia approached the golem, and together they deduced that the game would end once all the buildings in the area were destroyed. The team decided to stand their ground and touch the corrupted players to restore them, despite the risks. Final tally was announced. They had collected 10 tokens, while the gods' side had only 9. Humanity had claimed victory for the first time in 35 days. Faye's manager was overjoyed, praising how well he and Leola Shia had worked together. Faye reflected on how Leola Shia seemed to read his thoughts during the game, to which the manager commented that the two of them were very alike. She explained that Leola Shia had always played alone until Faye joined her. As a reward for their victory, the manager handed Faye a special card hinting at future challenges. Later, Faye visited Leola Shia in her room. They discussed the game, and she asked Faye about his dreams if they managed to win 10 consecutive games. Faye revealed that his ultimate goal was to find someone he had played with as a child, a person he had always lost to. When Leola Shia asked for more details, Faye admitted he couldn't remember the person's name, but vividly recalled her bright red hair, which reminded him of a goddess. Touched by his honesty, Leola Shia smiled, and the two agreed to continue fighting together in the games ahead. Leola Shia confidently tells Miranda that she has decided to team up with Faye. However, Faye quickly points out that 2 people alone cannot form a team for the upcoming games. Miranda, wearing her pajamas, responds with a smirk, explaining she had just decided to relax after a grueling shift when the two of them appeared with this request. She reminds them that a team must consist of at least 10 members to qualify. Miranda suggests the best strategy is to overwhelm opponents with numbers, but Leola Shia firmly states she has no intention of working with people who don't genuinely enjoy games. Taking charge, Miranda assigns Faye the task of recruiting suitable members. The next day, Faye and Leola Shia are seen sitting at a registration counter, hoping to form their new team. Faye decides to contact some old acquaintances from his previous games. Initially, one of his former teammates is thrilled to hear from him and eagerly agrees to join. However, when Faye mentions that Leola Shia, the goddess, is also on the team, the tone shifts. The man abruptly ends the call. Confused, Faye asks why, and the teammate explains that a previous squad had insulted the gods after losing a game, calling the divine games worthless. The insulted goddess retaliated, sending all 20 apostles in the squad to the hospital. Faye looks accusingly at Leola Shia, who initially denies involvement but eventually admits it was her. Adding fuel to the fire, the teammate mentions that while Leola Shia is beautiful, her chest could be larger. Leola Shia's temper flares, and she half-seriously suggests incinerating the world. Despite this setback, Faye continues searching for potential recruits. He contacts another skilled team known for their exceptional strategist. The team leader is eager to accept Faye into their ranks, but the moment Leola Shia's name comes up, panic sets in, and the leader hangs up. Leola Shia, feeling guilty, explains to Faye that she once practiced combat-based games and accidentally overdid it, causing serious harm to her opponent, who ended up hospitalized. She apologizes, admitting she wanted to understand humans better, but may have gone too far. Faye reassures her, saying they'll build their own team with people who truly love games. He even suggests finding someone with teleportation skills to give them an edge. At that moment, a young woman steps out of a glowing portal. Faye and Leola Shia immediately notice her. She looks disheartened, muttering something about quitting. Recognizing them as the recent victors, The woman introduces herself as Pearl. Faye seizes the opportunity to invite her to join their team, but Pearl declines. Faye insists on treating her to a meal to talk things over. At the table, Pearl shares her story. She has a record of 1 victory and 1 defeat, but blames herself for her team's loss. She admits that in a critical moment, she swapped places with her team leader, leaving him vulnerable to an attack. Her mistake caused the leader to suffer his 3rd defeat, permanently removing him from the games. As she speaks, Pearl absent-mindedly devours 35 servings of ice cream, much to Faye's shock. Leolachia assures Pearl that even if they lose, they won't hold it against her. Despite the reassurance, Pearl refuses and abruptly runs away. Faye, unwilling to give up on her, argues that if they don't help her now, she'll spend the rest of her life avoiding games. Determined, Faye and Leolachia track down Pearl's room and find her door unlocked. Entering cautiously, they stumble upon Pearl changing clothes. Leolachia, immediately captivated by Pearl's ample chest, dramatically leaps forward and jokingly begs her to share half of it. Embarrassed, Pearl explains she often teleports out of habit and forgot to lock the door. Pearl confesses that she's always admired Faye's victories. She even baked cookies for her former teammates to apologize, but they refuse to accept them or even see her. Tearfully, she insists there's nothing she can do to make things right. Faye gently tells her they'll help her regain her reputation. He proposes facing the gods again and offers her another chance to prove herself. Encouraged, Pearl finally agrees to join the team. Miranda, seeing Pearl's determination, reveals the location of their next game. As Pearl prepares to step through the portal, Leolachia takes her hand for reassurance. Together, the team enters the gateway, finding themselves suspended in the air. Soaring above the clouds, they notice something massive hidden within the mist. Faye quickly deduces that this god has a perfect winning record. Every challenger who has faced this deity has suffered defeat. Faye asks Pearl to use her teleportation abilities to help the team, but she hesitantly replies that she won't succeed. Before she can finish, Leolachia grabs everyone to move them to safety. However, the enormous entity they're battling knocks them back onto its body. As they land, the team encounters other participants in the game. The captain of one group shares crucial information. 4 players have already been eliminated, and anyone who falls will be devoured by the divine beasts below. He reminds everyone that their actions are being streamed live, urging them not to embarrass themselves in front of the audience. Blue Mipu appears with his usual mocking tone, stating that the captain's explanations are pointless. He adds that they can win the game if they can make the game master utter a forbidden word. Faye observes that Ouroboros, the massive entity, has horns larger than entire buildings. The captain explains that Ouroboros is one of the most powerful and revered gods. Meanwhile, lightning strikes begin to concentrate around Ouroboros as if preparing for an attack. Blue Mipu reminds the players that they have already unintentionally said the word multiple times. The participants frantically list different possibilities, and Faye almost absent-mindedly says the word pain. Instantly, everything around them freezes. The team regains their composure and tries to find a way to weaken Ouroboros. Pearl asks Faye if he thinks the god understands their language. Faye speculates that it's unlikely. They decide to focus their attacks on a single spot, hoping to break through, but their efforts prove futile. Taking the initiative, Leolachia strikes a powerful blow, but this action causes one of the players to be eliminated. Yet, Ouroboros does not utter the forbidden word. Blue Mipu reminds them of a hidden rule. The first rule is, if something happens, it will trigger another reaction. He elaborates that as long as this rule remains in effect, any action can lead to unforeseen consequences. Pearl, terrified by the prospect of being eaten by the Leviathans, begins to panic. Faye calms her down, reassuring her that everything will be fine. Observing their growing closeness, Leolachia becomes visibly annoyed and mutters about Pearl's oversized chest being the reason for the situation. Later, Leolachia pulls Pearl aside, encouraging her to showcase her abilities instead of succumbing to fear. While exploring the area, the team discovers Ouroboros' tail, which is a different color than the rest of its body. Pearl assumes this is its weak point, but Faye feels uneasy and warns against acting rashly. Pearl ignores him and strikes the tail. Her attack triggers a massive beam of energy that reflects off the scales on Ouroboros' back, strengthening the entity further. The captain scolds Pearl for her reckless actions, but she apologizes, saying she didn't mean for things to go wrong. Faye defends her, arguing that doing nothing would have been just as bad. He explains that their failure confirmed the first rule. Every action causes a reaction. Faye devises a new plan to provoke Ouroboros even further. Although the captain protests, Faye insists that even if they fail, their actions will serve as a lesson for the audience watching the stream. He asks Leolachia to hit him with all her strength. Leolachia delivers a powerful strike, producing a massive beam of energy that eliminates all the other players in the game. Faye notices that the Leviathans have turned on Ouroboros, realizing they are servants of another god. The team mounts one of the Leviathans to reach Ouroboros' weak point, its eyes. Reaching the eyes proves challenging and time is running out. Leolachia decides to sacrifice herself, charging forward. Faye asks Pearl to use her magic at the right moment. While he distracts Ouroboros, Pearl seizes the opportunity and casts a spell, destroying one of its eyes. Although the captain of another team loses, he is happy with their collective victory and tries to take credit for it. Ultimately, Ouroboros is defeated. A girl representing the gods appears before the team, offering them a gift and suggesting they play again when the opportunity arises. Girl running toward a goal, but she's suddenly attacked. She awakens abruptly, realizing it was just another dream about her past. Shaking off the memories, she notices Faye battling a god and becomes determined to dedicate her life to supporting him. Meanwhile, the team remains in a waiting phase. The manager still refuses to let them participate in new games, claiming all slots are filled. Frustrated, Leolachia proposes going to the gates to claim a spot by force. Faye, however, learns about a way to bypass the queue, joining a special event. The manager suggests they enter a world tour, a prestigious competition spanning multiple cities. The team boards a train bound for the Holy City. Along the way, Miranda explains that players from various cities have been invited and are eagerly awaiting their arrival. When it comes time to choose a city for their first match, Pearl suggests leaving it to chance and throws a dart at a map. The dart lands on the city of Sacred Keys, Malra. Upon arrival, the team is captivated by the city's grandeur. Their joy is short-lived when they're approached by a cheerful and overly enthusiastic girl named Reckless Nell. Nell instantly proclaims her desire to become Faye's woman, shocking everyone. She declares her devotion, vowing to do anything for him, cleaning, cooking, even washing his clothes. Leolachia steps in, stating that such tasks are already her responsibility. Nell, undeterred, kneels before Faye and reaffirms her commitment. Sensing the team's discomfort, she realizes they're planning to escape and gives chase. A car suddenly appears in her path, but Nell nonchalantly swats it aside, showcasing her immense strength. The team uses the opportunity to evade her, but notices the suspicious stares they're attracting from passers-by. Their troubles aren't over when a man approaches Pearl and grabs her shoulder. Thinking he's a stalker, Pearl panics, but the man introduces himself as Balaguer, the branch manager of Ions. He explains that the next game will take place in 3 days, and mentions that all 10,000 slots for participants have already been sold out. Balaguer adds that the demand to compete against Faye and his team has been overwhelming. Ascending to the tournament venue, Faye and the others encounter former participants from previous years. One of them, a flamboyant player named Dark Gia Scimitar, approaches them. Noticing their foreign attire, he identifies them as out-of-town guests and introduces himself. Dark brags about his achievements, revealing that he defeated a god on his first attempt and has a record of 3 victories and 1 loss. Impressed by their reputation, Dark proposes that Faye join his team, claiming they would reach the ultimate level of competition together. Faye politely declines, and Dark leaves without a fuss. Later, Faye discusses the strategies of other teams and shows a recording of a skilled player, a girl who had once requested to join their team. Faye notes her strict adherence to her captain's orders. However, during the recording, the girl defies her captain's declaration of defeat, insisting they can still win. Pearl comments that this girl is her polar opposite. Their conversation is interrupted when Nell bursts into their room dressed as a maid. The team immediately recognizes her, prompting Nell to flee in embarrassment. Elsewhere, Dark speaks with the defiant girl from the recording. Reflecting on their past, he recalls how they entered the tournament together but went separate ways. Dark blames her failures on her previous team, suggesting that they were unworthy of her. He invites her to become the analyst for his team, but the girl refuses, betting everything on Faye's team instead. As the match approaches, Nell informs Faye that his opponent will be Dark and begs him to win. The day of the game arrives, and the arena is filled with a massive audience. Dark greets Faye, stating that he came to compete for personal glory rather than to defend the city's honor. The game's format is chosen randomly from thousands of options. The chosen game is a card-based Sugoroku match, a battle of strategy, skill, and luck. Faye and Dark preparing for their Sugoroku match. Faye admits he doesn't know how to play this game, and Dark reveals that it's new to him as well. As the rules are explained, both players are given a chance to choose their partners. Dark confidently picks his teammate C, a skilled mage. Everyone expects Faye to choose Leolachia, but she abruptly leaves, leaving Faye to team up with Pearl instead. The players are presented with 4 classes to choose from, and given 5 random cards each. Pearl draws a particularly rare card, sparking excitement. Faye selects the Traveler class for its versatility, while Pearl opts for the healer role. Meanwhile, Dark and C both choose mages, emphasizing their offensive strategies. The game begins, and Faye takes the first turn. Rolling a 6, he advances confidently. However, Dark immediately counters by using a secret mage card, creating a magical barrier that amplifies the damage dealt to opponents. Faye and Pearl choose not to use any cards during their turn, conserving resources. Dark's teammate C seizes the opportunity to strike, dealing 1 damage per hit and inflicting a total of 4 damage on Faye and Pearl's combined health. Dark explains that their strategy is simple: deal as much damage as possible to pressure their opponents. Realizing the need to act, Pearl plays one of her cards but ends up taking damage herself due to the barrier. Dark follows up with another attack, leaving Pearl with only 8 health. C capitalizes on this and reduces Pearl's health to a perilous 1 point. Desperate to heal, Pearl tries to use a recovery card, but Dark counters with a card that prevents healing for the turn. Faye steps in, healing Pearl and using an offensive spell during his move, while Pearl regains her balance and casts a protective spell on herself. Dark shifts his tactics, placing traps on 4 specific tiles to corner his opponents. Pearl counters by erecting a defensive barrier, but C shatters it with a Mega Flame attack, dealing significant damage. C then plays a powerful card called Absolute Equality, which redirects damage from one player to another. Dark intentionally steps on a trap, transferring the damage he would have received to Faye. However, Faye uses a card at the last moment to shield himself and Pearl. Dark escalates the pressure by playing a silence card, preventing Pearl from using any abilities. C, meanwhile, faces consequences for holding 4 cards and takes damage. Pearl uses her last card to heal herself and retaliates, leaving Dark with just 1 health point. C quickly heals him, but Pearl strikes again, dealing 7 more damage. Dark reflects part of the damage back, but Pearl surprises everyone by using a unique card. This card allows her to draw any card from the storage deck, and Faye reveals that he had placed a critical card in storage during the first phase of the game. Earlier, Faye had intentionally bluffed, asking the operator about a card exchange mechanic to confuse Dark and C about his intentions. As the final move unfolds, Pearl uses the retrieved card, delivering a decisive blow that secures victory for Faye's team. Dark, impressed but undeterred, declares that this is only the beginning of their rivalry. He promises to challenge Faye again, vowing to fight until the very end. After the match, Faye thanks Pearl for her exceptional performance, acknowledging her crucial role in their victory. In the bustling city, Leolachia is drawn to a stall selling rare games. The shopkeeper warns her that such items might be costly, but she confidently hands over a limitless credit card. Faye arrives just in time and reminds her that the manager specifically advised against excessive spending. Meanwhile, Pearl enjoys a celebratory meal, still glowing from their recent victory. As Leolachia browses, fans approach her asking for photos, while a separate group of admirers surrounds Faye, requesting autographs. However, Pearl is left unnoticed, with no fans coming her way. Leolachia teases Faye by asking for his autograph as well. Caught off guard without anything to write on, Faye improvises by signing her ribbon. Their moment is interrupted by the sudden arrival of Dark, whose overwhelming popularity draws all the fans to him in an instant. Dark's fame is notable. His live streams reportedly earn more than an apostle's salary. C observes this, commenting on Dark's intelligence and good looks, but clarifies that she harbors no romantic feelings for him. Faye, on the other hand, expresses his unease about the city, sensing something peculiar. Nell, overhearing the conversation, realizes that Faye has figured out her presence, and once again pleads to join his team, even in a non-combat role like an analyst. Faye, however, declines her request, urging her to reflect on her true aspirations. He jokes that their next meeting might be in court, leaving Nell flustered. The group is soon summoned by their manager, who informs them that the next game has already begun. As they approach the arena gates, Nell lingers nearby to cheer them on. Faye assures her that they'll do their best and heads inside with the team. Upon entering, Faye, Leolachia, and Pearl find themselves in a vast desert. Dark and C are already waiting for them, accompanied by a new member, Camilla. Dark introduces Camilla dismissively, stating that she's there purely for numbers. Confident in his abilities, Dark declares this moment his time to shine, claiming he won't even need to intervene in the game. To escalate the tension, he calls upon the god to appear. Suddenly, the ground shakes, and a massive pyramid rises from the sand. From its peak emerges Cat Mipu, an enigmatic figure who explains the rules of the game. Each participant is handed a flower and tasked with protecting its bud while ascending to the pyramid's summit. However, there are obstacles. Divine creatures in the form of enormous kittens will attack them to steal the flowers. If a creature takes a flower, the entire team loses. Conversely, if a team manages to steal a flower from the creature is eliminated. Complicating matters further, the pyramid contains poisonous flowers. Grabbing one will curse the entire team, immobilizing them. There are 3 ways to win. Successfully place their flowers at the summit, eliminate all opposing teams and creatures, deceive the divine entity overseeing the game. Leolachia volunteers to handle the poisonous flower, boasting about her resilience. C counters, suggesting her own durability. Faye is given the responsibility of assigning the flowers among their team. He carefully redistributes them and asks everyone to inspect their buds in secret. Faye then instructs the team to keep the identity of the solar flower holder a secret, a critical element of their strategy. As they finalize their plans, the god overseeing the game materializes. Faye devises a cunning strategy to deceive the god and ensure their victory. Ouroboros, growing impatient with waiting for the next game, declares her intention to find and confront them herself. Nell observes the ongoing game from afar, speculating that the team might hold both the poisonous and golden flowers. As the game begins, the participants charge forward, pursued by a swarm of 1,700 divine kittens. Kurlik, a particularly agile competitor, sprints ahead of the group, but a sudden sandstorm halts their progress. In the chaos, one of the kittens manages to snatch a flower, causing one participant to be eliminated. The group engages in combat with the kittens, but Pearl is caught. Just as things look dire, C intervenes and saves her. Meanwhile, participants continue to be picked off one by one. This frustrates Leolecia, who unleashes a powerful earth-splitting attack, creating a massive fissure to block the kittens. Spotting an oasis ahead, she creates another fissure, but the kittens nimbly leap over it, continuing their relentless pursuit. Camilla is eventually caught by the kittens. Accepting her fate, she sacrifices herself, urging the others to forget about her and keep moving. With only 600 meters left to the pyramid, 5 participants remain. Dark, however, fails to reach the portal in time. Leolecia and Pearl decide to distract the kittens to buy Faye more time. As the eliminated participants watch from the sidelines, they speculate that Faye must have the golden flower. Meanwhile, Dark reflects on a past conversation where Nell had asked him to help Faye win. This memory lingers as Dark is eliminated. The deity overseeing the game comments on the impressive progress of the remaining participants, noting that they need only place the flowers atop the pyramid to claim victory. Pearl, attempting to outmaneuver the god, tries to steal a flower from its stash. However, the flower turns out to be poisonous, paralyzing her for 5 seconds. The deity seizes the opportunity to reveal the true location of the solar flower, adding to the tension. Faye then explains a critical detail. Before his elimination, Dark entrusted him with his flower. Initially, Dark was the one carrying the golden flower, but Faye now holds it. With this revelation, the deity pauses for 5 seconds, giving Leolecia time to hand over her poisonous flower. Seizing the moment, Sia uses her strength to launch Faye high up the pyramid. As Faye lands near the summit, he places the golden flower at the designated spot, securing victory for his team. The deity acknowledges its defeat and promises to await Faye's return in future challenges. Faye expresses gratitude to Nell, appreciating her role in motivating Dark to help them. Despite their triumph, Nell laments that she cannot join Faye's team due to her record of 3 losses. Faye, determined to help her, decides to challenge the bookmaker god to revoke one of her defeats. Faye wagers one of his victories for Nell's sake, but the team manager opposes this risky decision. Pearl steps forward, offering to stake her victory instead, so Faye doesn't have to sacrifice his. Leolecia supports the idea, declaring Nell a worthy candidate for their team. Reluctantly, the manager agrees. Overwhelmed by their support, Nell expresses her heartfelt gratitude, promising to give it her all. She pleads for just one chance to prove herself, and Faye's team, united in purpose, prepares for their next challenge. Faye submits the application for the next game, and the team sets off on a train journey. Nell remains deeply focused on the upcoming duel, her mind occupied with thoughts of success or failure. Pearl, noticing her unease, tries to distract her with conversation. Faye explains that the bookmaker's game is very different from their usual matches. It's a direct one-on-one challenge. Faye reveals his plan to wager one of his victories to remove a loss from Nell's record, which surprises the group. The girls note that Faye seems remarkably calm, despite the stakes. They realize it's likely because he's already won 6 games and is confident in his abilities. Faye assures them that he doesn't mind taking this risk for Nell's sake. Leolecia, equally confident, states that Nell won't let them down and encourages her to aim for victory. Upon their return, the team is greeted by their manager, who praises Pearl, saying she saw her potential from the very beginning. Miranda, curious about their chances, asks Faye if he truly believes they can win. Faye's unwavering confidence reassures everyone. Later, in their room, Leolecia is delighted by the luxurious bed, expressing her excitement. Pearl remarks that Faye and Leolecia set an inspiring example for everyone. Nell, moved by the camaraderie, hugs Pearl, but accidentally spills her drink in the process. Pearl, ever practical, suggests they all take a bath. Leolecia, however, recalls an urgent matter and excuses herself, leaving Pearl and Nell to enjoy the bath together. In the bath, Nell can't help but comment on Pearl's figure, humorously comparing her ample chest to towering mountains and her own to an empty plain. Despite the teasing, the moment lightens the tension before the big event. The next day, the team gathers at the gates of the Bookmakers Arena. Their manager informs them that this game will be conducted without any cameras or live streaming, making it a private affair. Suddenly, a god appears in the form of Nell, explaining that this room is a reflection of her inner self. Faye inquires about the conditions for victory, then confidently places a bet of 3 of his victories on Nell's success. Leola Shea agrees to the wager without hesitation, showing her faith in Nell. The game is revealed to be poker. As the cards are shuffled, Nell sits down, determined to win. Faye quickly assesses the situation and guesses that their opponent, Grimoire, has strong cards. In the first round, Nell cautiously bets 1 chip, while Grimoire bets everything. Startled by the bold move, Nell folds, losing 3 chips. In the second round, Nell is dealt a poor hand. She decides to exchange 4 cards while Grimoire swaps only 1. Nell suspects this might be a bluff, but when Grimoire raises the stakes, Nell folds again, doubting her own judgment. She starts realizing that her cautious approach isn't enough to win. She's playing not to lose rather than to claim victory. With only 1 chip left to her name against Grimoire's 9, Nell understands that her only option is to take a bold risk. She places her hope on the possibility of receiving a better hand than her opponent and resolves to fight for the win. Grimoire, noticing Nell's hesitation, challenges her resolve. The god accuses Nell of playing without true conviction, reminding her of the 3 moments in her life where she failed, once out of disappointment, a second time out of sorrow, and a third out of hatred. Nell begins to falter, but Faye intervenes, declaring the match over. He acknowledges Grimoire's victory in this game, but challenges the god to a new contest, 3 lies. Grimoire, intrigued, accepts Faye's challenge. The stakes are higher, the tension mounting as Faye steps forward, ready to take on the god in a game where deception reigns supreme. Grimoire begins the ep by expressing surprise at Faye's resilience and ingenuity. Admitting he cannot fully understand him, she announces that her games always adapt to the nature of her opponents, and she challenges Faye to uncover the secret behind her deception. To heighten the stakes, Grimoire teases Faye's companions by hinting at his deceit, causing them to laugh, though it's unclear whether they believe her. The first challenge is a coin toss. Faye chooses a black and white coin for the game, and Nell cheekily nudges it with her foot as it's tossed into the air. While the coin spins, Faye confidently calls heads, but when the coin lands, it's tails. Faye immediately suspects trickery in the mechanics of the game. The second game is poker, with a twist. Each player can exchange cards only once. Leola Shea volunteers to deal the cards. As the game unfolds, Faye carefully analyzes his hand and opts to exchange his entire set of cards despite having a strong hand. However, he still loses. He starts piecing together the puzzle, noticing an extra card in his hand and that Grimoire consistently draws the Joker. By the end of the second loss, Faye realizes the odds of victory are against him, calculated at a 66% chance, but even with this advantage, he fails to win. Grimoire declares the game's over and demands Faye's answer to the nature of her deceit. Instead, Faye proposes a final game, confident he can turn the tables. The last game begins. As Faye collects the cards, he notices something peculiar. His friends have been subtly influencing the outcome. He deduces that Pearl has been switching cards during the shuffles, while Nell has been controlling the coin toss using her arise. Faye reveals that he intentionally dragged out the game to confirm his suspicions, and forced Grimoire to reuse an unshuffled hand. By exploiting this oversight, Faye secures victory in the final round. With the game concluded, Faye confronts Grimoire and reveals her secret strategy to the group. He then declares that their victories are now evenly matched. Every participant, Grimoire reluctantly acknowledges her defeat, allowing the group to return to their world. The team celebrates Nell's success and newfound confidence. They discuss their next steps with their manager, who shares troubling news. Over 200 players are stuck in another game world, unable to return for over 52 hours. The group quickly realizes the gravity of the situation. If they fail to win this next challenge, they too might be trapped indefinitely. Faye, intrigued by the scale of the game, notes that it seems to allow players from all over the world to participate. Despite the risks and unknown conditions for victory, Faye agrees to help resolve the crisis. The team is faced with a choice of difficulty levels. Without hesitation, Faye and Leola Shea select the hardest mode. Numbers appear above their heads, a foreboding sign of the challenge's stakes. Upon entering the game arena, they find themselves in a vast field surrounded by ominous trees bearing apples. Her sudden death shocks the team, underscoring the lethal nature of the game. Meanwhile, Grimoire grows bored while waiting for more players to arrive. She is visited by Ouroboros, who inquires about the whereabouts of Faye and his companions. Pearl dodges the deadly apple, confidently claiming she won't fall into the trap again. However, the apple targets her once more, killing her. The rest of the team realizes how perilous the traps in this dungeon truly are. As they continue, they encounter a massive, seemingly endless pit. Eventually, they reach the entrance to the dungeon, where they are met by Mipu. He informs them that their training is over, and the real challenge begins now. Mipu explains that the dungeon is filled with monsters and traps, and each player can take only 2 items with them. If they die, they will have to start over, though their knowledge and experience will remain intact. Progress will be measured in percentages, increasing as they overcome obstacles. Faye asks how they can return home, to which Mipu replies that they must either defeat the final boss or find a special escape item. He also shares a tale about a goddess who loved creating impossible dungeons. Unable to find anyone capable of clearing them, she eventually died of boredom. The game begins. The team encounters their first monsters, fluffy creatures that swarm Pearl. These creatures are harmlessly soft and leave behind a wooden trail, which the group uses to craft shields, raising their progress to 1%. Later, they meet another fluffball with a unique appearance. This one transforms into a massive beast and kills the entire team with a single magical attack. Upon respawning, they realize that fatigue accumulates with each failed attempt. In their next encounter, Nell reflects the beast's magic, successfully defeating it. The monster drops a key, but as Nell picks it up, she dies from a hidden trap. She reassures the others not to blame themselves for her mistake. Each member crafts their own items. Pearl creates a mirror, Faye a clock, Leolisia a horn, and Nell an umbrella. While exploring, they meet another group of players. Nell recognizes one of them as an old friend. They exchange information and combine keys to unlock a massive hall. Faye senses something unusual and warns the team about the presence of a raid boss. Faye and Leolisia activate their items, awakening the boss, who immediately kills them. Other teams attempt to shield themselves from its attacks but fail. After many retries, Faye devises a new strategy. Nell tries to deflect the boss's attack using her, but it fails. She explains that the attack consists of 1,000 meteors. Faye realizes they need to dodge instead, and creates umbrellas to shield them from the attack successfully. Leolisia charges at the boss, dealing only 1 point of damage. The others follow suit, chipping away at the boss's health, which initially stands at 2 million. They notice that the boss takes damage from its own attacks, so they decide to exhaust it. They only need to evade one final attack to win, but one of the girls stumbles. Nell saves her by deflecting the first strike and absorbing the second. The team successfully defeats the boss and obtains a resurrection bell. However, when they ring it, the boss unexpectedly revives. At that moment, Ouroboros appears, revealing that the goddess had lost a previous game and reset her chances with the bookmaker. With a single strike, Ouroboros defeats the boss, ending the trial. The unexpected developments leave the participants astounded. They discover a salvation item, a save point. Faye notices a flaw in the game, preventing the storyline from progressing. He theorizes that defeating the final boss would complete the game. However, Mipu explains that the goddess who designed the dungeon has died, making it impossible to clear the game. Despite this revelation, Faye insists on continuing and requests that they be allowed to return to the real world to inform the manager about the situation. Mipu hands Ouroboros a yellow card, accusing her of defeating the boss unfairly. He also warns the group that more monsters await them ahead. Faye begins to suspect that the game is trying to lull them into a false sense of security. Ouroboros, now part of their team, follows the group. When Faye questions her persistence, she states that she intends to join them in clearing the game. Suddenly, Nell senses something unusual. The group encounters a mysterious girl who catches Pearl's attention. However, the girl abruptly flees, only to run into a woolly creature that begins vomiting. The group decides to retreat and eventually stumbles upon a treasure room, only to find it locked. An angel appears, offering to grant their wish. Pearl requests the key to the treasure room, but the angel notices the dirt on the group and kills them all. Upon respawning, they realize they must stay clean to avoid such outcomes. Faye deduces that since Ouroboros entered the dungeon with them, she is now an official team member. They decide to tread carefully to avoid unnecessary attention. Nell hears the sound of water, leading the group to a hidden waterfall. Inside, they discover a chest containing swimsuits. They venture further and encounter more apple traps. Pearl is attacked again, but survives this time. Another angel appears, furious about the dirt on Pearl's hair. Later, an angel returns, still sensing remnants of previous dirt. Realizing the pattern, the group decides to take matters into their own hands. Leolisia observes that the dungeon, despite its challenges, forces them to work together effectively. By coordinating their efforts and ensuring they are thoroughly clean, they succeed in bypassing the angel's wrath. After passing the challenge, the group takes a moment to relax. They share stories of their recent success, only for Pearl to be ambushed by a shark in the water. Faye commends the group for their teamwork, which allowed them to overcome the restrictions on their equipment. Meanwhile, Kirlik informs Dark that the team is prepared to delve deeper into the dungeon. Continuing their journey, the team stumbles upon a plaque indicating that a god rests in the area. Faye proposes resurrecting the deity using the revival bell. Pearl rings the bell, but nothing happens. Faye deduces they need to reach 100% completion to activate the bell. He decides they should regroup with other players and share their findings. Meanwhile, rare items begin appearing across the dungeon, and players gather these treasures in a central location. Elsewhere, the girls wash zombie-like woolly creatures in a waterfall. The cleansed creatures lead them to their village and grant them a symbol to prevent further attacks. In another part of the dungeon, a separate team encounters the Eraser King. Both groups push forward, determined to clear the game. Nell discovers a hidden door and finds a ruby inside. Ouroboros smugly comments that her ruby was far superior. As they debate, a boss awakens, boasting about his immense strength and claiming he can crush them instantly. However, Ouroboros dispatches him with a single blow. This act leads to her disqualification, and she announces that she will wait for them outside the dungeon once they clear the game. The remaining players are nearing the end. The final challenge requires rolling dice and landing ones on all sides. Dark appears, stating their encounter is fated. He rolls the dice, successfully achieving the required outcome, then departs to assist other participants. With only 0.001% left to completion, Faye deduces that their final trial involves a seemingly impassable chasm. They ring the bell again, and this time the god Anubis materializes. She summons 100 bosses to fight them. The group uses their umbrellas to dodge the boss's attacks. However, one of the bosses, a lion, obliterates all their allies. Faye declares that Anubis's weak point is her brain. Pearl fires a rocket at Anubis, but it has no effect. In response, Anubis summons 100 woolly creatures. The team brandishes their granted symbols, causing the creatures to join their side. A chaotic battle ensues, with Anubis unleashing a powerful weapon called the God Eraser, which obliterates the players. However, they are resurrected by a mirror artifact. Anubis shifts tactics, deciding to play with them instead. She seals their items and resumes using the God Eraser. Nell reflects one of her spells back at her, forcing Anubis to retaliate by attempting to destroy the entire arena. As destruction looms, Faye opts for retreat, but Pearl employs her wandering ability, resulting in the arena's total collapse. Miraculously, the players survive. Finally, Anubis sits down before them, declaring that she has had her fill of fun. Acknowledging their efforts, she proclaims them victorious and rewards Faye with a key before disappearing. Reuniting with Ouroboros and the others, the players celebrate their return to the real world. Ouroboros invites the group to participate in her game, but Leolachia smugly reminds her they've already beaten her once. The team eagerly anticipates their next adventure, their spirits high as they prepare for a new challenge.